education which will provide them training to take up jobs rather than just theory.
Personally, I agree quite strongly with you, and I think that it's good to be driving to get a good education. So as we move on, go into further into life, at the end of the day, education is all about growing up so we can contribute better to our economy, so we can earn money for our economy, so we can earn money for ourselves and have a good life. And I think that, yeah, I agree quite strongly with what you're saying.
But that's an interesting point. I wonder if you're watching now, whether you feel that your education or your children's education concentrates too much on the head rather than the heart, as Jahanara in Delhi says. Let's bring in Ziki. In fact, there she is. That's good news. She's back. Ziki, thank you very much for speaking to us from Berlin. Tell us about the emotional side of your education. Do you feel that the German schooling system pays attention to you growing up as a person as well as passing your exam results?
Hello. Well, I think the school expects sometimes too much from us because we just want to have good grades, and therefore we study and learn and do our homeworks just for the grades, but we don't do it to learn it, actually, because we have to have good grades in order to get a good job and to get accepted in university. That's what I think about it. Well, and I think we should, at some points they should concentrate more on life skills, because sometimes we are good educated and have good grades, but we can't find a job because we don't have life skills that we can show.
And Zeki, let me tell you that Anita here in London's nodding her head as you're speaking.
Yes, I totally agree. I also think that we concentrate too much on theory and the facts and bookwork and all that. We should get more hands-on and do practical work at school as well.
What kind of practical work do you mean? Can you give me an example of what you'd like to do but you can't do at the moment?
For example, in science, we could do more dissecting, more practical work like with the Bunsen burners and things like that, and also in other subjects as well.
There was an interview just last week with a leading scientist in the UK who said that health and safety rules were getting in the way of children taking part in science lessons. But Nathan, what about you? Do you feel that your school should teach you about life in general? Surely your mum and dad can do that. Leave the teachers to teach you about their subjects.
Well, I think that, yeah, we should learn more about practical, but I think it's more about the theories, really. Because if you have to learn about the theories before you learn about the practical, because you have to understand about what you're doing.
You three, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts for the moment. Let's bring in Krupa and hear what, because by the way, if you're new to World Have You Say, we're not just a TV show or a radio show. The conversation goes on all the time on our blog as well. The address is worldhaveyousay.com. And as you're watching, some of you are sending in messages as well, and Krupa has got a few of them.
Yes, Roz. Elena in Finland has posted at worldhaveyousay.com to say, I live in a country where education is highly valued. Schools and universities are financed by high taxes, but education is considered not just as a way to get better jobs, but as an important factor for equality between people. And this from Steve in Boston. He says, democracy does not happen without an educated population. And an interesting comment from Ramanan on our blog. He says, if we go by the definition of accumulating facts without understanding, then yes, we are definitely overeducated. Don't forget, you too can join in the conversation at worldhaveyousay.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter.
Krupa, thank you very much indeed. I know we're going to speak to an entrepreneur who left school relatively early in just a moment. You can probably see him up on our screen here. But let's quickly pick up on that point we heard in one of those emails Krupa read about the connection between education and democracy. Jamu, you're in Kenya, where democracy exists, although there were problems after the last election. Do you think your country needs more education to help develop your democracy?
Yes, I think we need more education because, like our country, as many of you know, had post-election violence in 2007, 2008. And when you see most of the people who perpetrated this violence are people who are, could I say, illiterate or just semi-illiterate. So we need these people to learn that we are to be as one. We are one people, we are the same. So that when they get that education and it helps them, they learn to live in peace with each other. They learn to coexist.
Let's go from you, Jamu, in Nairobi to Jahanara in Delhi. Do you make a connection between how much education is available in India and the strength of your democracy?
Yes, I definitely do. Because in my opinion, if you're not educated, you're a mere voter. But if you're educated, you become a responsible citizen of your society and the country. And what we're seeing now is more and more people are getting educated. They're becoming more aware of the actual meaning of democracy, which does not begin or end by casting your vote and choosing your leaders. It's more about participating rather than just standing there and waiting other people to make decisions for you.
Well, thanks for your comment from India. I was presenting yesterday's radio edition of World Have Your Say, and I was mentioning we were doing this TV programme, and I was interested to get in touch with people who maybe felt they'd succeeded in life without the help of extensive education. And we were put in touch with Tom, who's joining us here up on the screen. Tom, you're speaking to us from central London. Tell us, how old were you when you left school?
I was 18, actually, just shy of 2 years ago now. OK,
so you didn't go to university?
I didn't go to university, no. Instead, I set up the website. I mean, what I experienced was a lot of pressure to go to uni. Now, I think there's no such thing as over-educating, but in the UK, we seem to have attitudes towards academia. And if you take education as learning, then it's vitally important, but in all different routes. I mean, because what I'm promoting now, which I wasn't given, the support I wasn't given, was down alternative pathways. So educating yourself in a trade, getting a skill, still getting a degree or whatever, a higher level of qualification just through alternative means outside of university.
Tom, I'm fascinated by this, that you experienced pressure to go to university, even though you weren't inclined to do that. Zeki, do you think you'll experience the same thing in Germany?
Yeah, I think the pressure is very great here because after school you will have to have a good grade to get in university, and they will just take the best persons who are good enough to graduate in that class.
So that's your view from Berlin. What about you here in the studio?
Personally, I think, Tom, I think it's great that you made that choice and that you branched out, you did what you wanted to do. My only concern would be in the times we live in now, where society, we're looking constantly for, employers are looking constantly for the most highly qualified people. We're in times of recession, even though we may be coming out of it now, and we're constantly hearing news stories about unemployment, how unemployment is rising. And, you know, in these sort of times where jobs aren't easy to get, I think it would be better to have an education, especially because there's so many limited jobs, you know, to be able to provide for your family, to be able to provide easier. I'm not saying you won't be able to do it. I'm just saying it opens doors. It opens doors.
So look, not everyone's suited to the university route, the academic route. So I'm not at all saying that I don't think people should leave school and not do anything else. You need to skill yourself up. It's vital for the future economy. But there are other forms of learning outside of the traditional academic route because not everyone's suited for it.
I'm fascinated to hear all the different examples you're giving us. We're going to go to Krupa for messages in a moment. But Jamu, tell us about your experience in Kenya. Are people under pressure to leave school and go and help their families, or are they under pressure to carry on studying?
Well, I could say that people are under pressure to carry on studying because there's a lot of unemployment and they need to kind of like compete in the global scene to be able to work in their own country and in other countries that they may wish to. So it gets hard when some need scholarships, some are not able to pay their own school fees, they are sent home. So they are under pressure to keep in school. But I think that there are other options apart from academic work. If a person has a skill or a talent that is nurtured from an early age, like for example, if someone is skilled in mechanical work or even music and it's nurtured, the person could continue to grow up and be a better person than if he goes to university and doesn't help.
Well, Gemma, I have to tell you, and all of you taking part, that a few hours ago I posted all your names up on the World Have Your Say blog, so anyone who's a regular on the show could leave messages for you. Krupa, tell us the first question you'd like to pick out for everyone taking part.
Sure. Well, David here in the UK has this question for our students. He wants to ask, which subjects would you leave out of your education until a much later date?
In our school, that we do everything that you would probably need to know. Like when we're older, we learn life skills like cooking. So when you're older, you would want to know about cooking and everything. So it's not all about just maths or English. It's also about skills.
I wish I'd been taught about cooking when I was at school. I think my wife does as well. Jahanara in Delhi, is there anything you wish that you were taught about that you're not taught about?
Fortunately, my school is very different from all the other schools, where we have emphasis on other things such as personality development, being global citizens, accepting diversity. So yes, but I would have wanted us to have dance training in our